Is Spectrier a fraud? Well, it kind of was a fraud on this team, unfortunately. We're going to talk a little bit about this season, how it went, and how it would improve this team, and how I would actually draft around Spectrier in the future now that I've used it and made the mistakes that I have. If you guys are excited for this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you have not already. We do a bunch of great competitive content on this channel every single week, and you'll definitely want to get subscribed for all that draft league content. We also have a new Discord channel that we just started. We're looking to start building that channel out a little bit. We got memberships as well, so working towards doing that with the channel. So get subscribed, join the Discord to see all that we have planned with that in the coming months. So let's talk about this team. I'm going to keep this video pretty short. I'm playing the replays of the last 3 weeks in the background. You can probably guess, because I'm doing that, what the result of the season was. And yeah, I did get relegated this season. Really unfortunate to happen. I was really hoping to at least put up a decent fight, but I think there were a lot of key errors with this team that we'll get into. Will I play in the next one? I probably will, honestly, depending on when their next league is, depending on timelines with the next BBR season, with the DPP or AS Cup coming up, as well as Emerald Open. We got a lot of draft league to start the year, so we'll see where this lines up. But I'd like to play because I think this is a really cool community, and I'd like to still be a part of it, of course. So let's talk about the things that this team actually did well, because I think there are a few things that I really liked about this team. I really liked the Spectrier Tinglu idea. I think Tinglu was a really great way to cover for a lot of the potential Terra and offensive answers to Spectrier. Spectrier obviously being weak to Ghost and Dark. Tinglu does a really good job of locking those Pokemon up while also getting up a plethora of hazards. Having spikes and stealth rocks are so key on a Pokemon like this to help enable a Pokemon like Spectrier to actually dominate in these endgames. Iron Hands was also a really good Pokemon. I wish I got to do more with it this season. It's a Pokemon that I think is really good in this core. Like, this top 3 is very powerful in that Iron Hands does a good job of breaking those dark and normal types that can be either used to check the Spectrier offensively in terms of the dark type, or check it defensively in terms of the normal types. And it's also my Terra Captain, and honestly, really enjoyed it as a Terra Captain. It's one of those Pokemon that realistically there's always going to be, especially if you're doing 8-player draft, there's always going to be 8 Terra Captains better than this Pokemon. But if you're doing 16-player draft, you got multi-option Terra, I consider Iron Hands honestly as an option. Gives it a little bit more offensively. I know when I played in BBR, the last time I had Iron Hands, I used this primarily as a defensive answer with the Salt Vest, but I kind of wish I used it more offensively a little bit in this season. Just didn't come to fruition that often, but the Terra gives it so many more defensive type of options as well. The only other thing I've really liked about this team, like, I'm going to keep going on about this Pokemon until the end of time. I think Registeel is actually just a really solid Pokemon. It actually does so much in matchups against fairy types. There's really odd positions as well, like Ursula Blood Moon in one of the games you're going to see on here. Registeel is like sneakily like a good way to actually check that Pokemon offensively at times, which is really cool. I think that's a Pokemon I really like, and I think people have kind of narrowed in on the idea of losing Seismic Toss and Toxic as a way that this Pokemon is kind of less effective. But if you kind of transition the way you're thinking about it, you've got a lot of powerful options. It forces you to be more deliberate with your clicks, and that part I will concede, is that Seismic Toss is such a free move to click versus having to choose Heavy Slam, Body Press, etc. So many more difficult decisions there. But if you look at Toxic, like replacing it with Thunder Wave in a metagame that is so offensive and so quick, Thunder Wave is honestly just as damaging as Toxic is at times in the way that Generation 9 plays out. That I think that Pokemon is actually still very good. And with people underrating that Pokemon heavily, I think you can get a lot of value actually by adding it to your team. So let's get into the Pokemon that, the things that just went wrong with this team. I think the main thing that went wrong with this team was Terra Manaphy. And not necessarily that Terra Manaphy was bad. Quite frankly, it's not great, to say the least. It got forced into a lot of roles that maybe it didn't want to this season. But I think this Pokemon needed to be another fast offensive threat. My next closest offensive threat in terms of speed-wise was Lycanroc Dusk. And while Lycanroc Dusk I actually do think is an interesting Pokemon in Generation 9 Draft League, and there's a lot of opportunity for that Pokemon to actually have success, realistically, with that Pokemon, there's not a lot of opportunity for Lycanroc Dusk to actually have success on this team. We weren't really Flying Weak, we weren't really Fire Weak as well, so just not the right matchup for that Pokemon. And then Manaphy just, it's just one of those Pokemon where it feels like every matchup it can't do enough defensively or can't do enough offensively. And that being kind of my second best threat offensively, honestly. Iron Hand's obviously being very good, but it's going to be forced to be a defensive Pokemon a lot of the times, especially in the way that I like to play. Just wasn't good enough on this team. I think that was kind of where this team's undoing was. I needed a fourth Pokemon, which is a better offensive option. Really wanted to try Terra Manaphy, and guess what? We learned the hard way. The Terra Manaphy, unfortunately, kind of washed. The other thing that I want is Florges, and I'm kind of still high on this idea that when you can build teams with something like Florges and Uxie. I use that example in the draft analysis, and that you can build teams to counteract each other's weaknesses. So if you use Florges in a way that, defensively it's used to check special attackers, lock down those dragon types, and use its fairy offensively. Like 115 special attack is not nothing. And you have something like Uxie, which does a lot of good job taking the weight off that Pokemon physically, defensively. I think Florges is still a really good Pokemon, especially in 16-player draft, where sometimes you just need those options. But unfortunately, in just the way that this team comp worked, we just couldn't build the comps to actually enable those situations that come up very often on this team, and where Florges could come, but its weaknesses were handled. In one of the games you'll see on screen, we had Uxie in this battle, and this was a little bit of an unfortunate one against Infinite. I had a little bit of hacks go against me, but that's Pokemon for you. Those type of team compositions just did not work out often enough, unfortunately, with this Pokemon. And I still think it's an idea that's worth considering, especially in 8-mon draft, where you have to, there's going to be a lot of role compression aspects as well, but certainly finding these Pokemon at the bottom of the tier list is still going to be very, very important to say, where can I gain free points to upgrade my top tiers by leveraging low tiers that can be balanced out with the team composition to do what they want to do, while also not being exploited by their weaknesses. At the end of the day, we did get relegated. It wasn't the greatest season, wasn't the greatest team. I made a lot of key mistakes team building wise and preparation wise at the start of the season that I definitely regretted. I would have been able to get off on a lot better foot and maybe given myself a chance and the drive to succeed in this season. But at the end of the day, we are where we are for a reason, and we'll just have to see where it takes us next time out. As I said, I would like to play in this league again. I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to in the lower divisions, and we'll see what we can do in Scarlet and Violet draft, because we got another Scarlet and Violet draft coming up in just a couple of weeks with the BBR. Obviously, no spoilers on that one. I mean, everyone probably watching this would know I'd be probably back in that league after, unfortunately, a tough loss in the quarterfinals the last time out. But I think I'm starting to at least get my footing in Generation 9 and in Draft League again after quite a while out. And hopefully this year is the year we really see the fruits of that reward, the fruits of that labor come through. And start to put some more championships on the board. Obviously, we got the JJDL one, but we've got to get a couple more than that and some individual ones next year. So, hope everyone enjoyed this kind of waffling video talking about this team, talking about the failures of Spectrier on this build. As I said, if you're building Spectrier, build it more offensively than I did, but definitely take Tinglu Iron Hand. I think that's a good idea. They can definitely be explored, but definitely not the way I did it. So, if you enjoyed this little waffling video, make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We'll see everybody in the next video. And as always, have a wonderful day.